Welcome to the AtoZrunning podcast, where we help runners thrive. I'm Zach, and up next, pro runner and U.S. champ Futsum Zeinasellassie reminds us how to pursue progress successfully, and after that, World of Running updates about new records and a little bit of controversy. All right, glad to have you back with us again. A few quick reminders, but first you are probably noticing that we are missing the fairer and finer of the two in our duet. That, of course, is being Andy, and her voice, if you're listening right now, is not with us at the moment. But she will be shortly because she conducted the interview with Futsum Zeinasellassie, and it's a great one. And if you are getting sick of the sound of my voice by the time you hear that, then you don't have to listen to me at all for all of that time. And I know you're looking forward to not having to listen to me any longer. So that being the case, two quick reminders here. First is if you're interested in getting your hands on some of the sick threads with the new AtoZrunning gear and apparel, everything is live and running on the shop. We mentioned in the past that we were trying to configure some of the media for things to be available there. Of course, though, it is available because Andy is a media wizard, and so things happened quickly. But that is available to the public at AtoZrunning.com/shop, or if you're on the website, just look for the word shop in the corner, and you can get your hands on some of the coolest running merch this side of the 20th century. All right, now that being the case, we also want to make sure that you have a chance, if you haven't already, to submit a question for our end of month Q&A. We do have that coming very soon, and if you would like to ask anything to do with the running, the racing, the recovering, the training, or why am I doing this, or what should I be doing, or the health and nutrition of running stuff and what helps and doesn't, all of those kinds of things. We're always glad to be able to share thoughts where we can, if we can, and we'll do just that if you ask the question. Go to AtoZrunning.com/question, and we'll feature our thoughts and response at the end of month episode. All right, AtoZrunning.com/question. Do all of that. Now, that being the case, also just a quick word and shout out to the many of you who were running in West Michigan or East Michigan recently, the Detroit Marathon and Half Marathon and other events, the Grand Rapids Marathon, Half Marathon and other events were both on the same day, and we were able to see many of you, at least in passing, and that was very fun, as it always is. And so glad to be able to make those connections. Thanks to the many who said hello or who recognized when we were out and about, but also in after the fact, and many, the comments on social medias and such, and always appreciate seeing all the encouragement and support, not having to do with us, but with those who participated, and very fun stuff there. So that's kind of the key layer of all of these things we enjoy thoroughly, despite the fact that Zach sometimes looks like he is not wanting to talk to anyone and scowling, and yet it is true that we enjoy connecting with you in those respects and at those times, certainly. More than anything else, that's why we do what we do. Now, with that, let's go ahead and get on to our main topic. As promised, we have professional runner and U.S. champ Futsum Zeinasellassie on with Andy to talk about progress as opposed to perfection. And as runners, certainly a challenge worth considering. A note about Zeinasellassie here, he is a professional runner and coach. In college, ran for the fabled Northern Arizona University, where as well, at the time, as an Eritrean, broke national records in both 800 meters and 5,000 meters, having then changed his nationality to the United States to represent USA as he's training and competing still, has many top 15 finishes at U.S. championships on the roads, including runner-up 2022 half marathon and national champ in the 10-mile. Also the runner-up at the 2021 25K held in our home turf in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or very nearly our home turf. So a lot of impressive things going on lately, and one who has been very interesting to watch because he's present at the highest level in a lot of different aspects of things. And so you see a kind of a force like him who's performing well in many different disciplines and across and in this instance, for some time here, just consistency. So we wanted to talk about that, and we wanted to tap into that a little bit. And that's where this conversation is trying to go, is when you talk about consistency over time, and what is it that you're thinking about? What is it that you're pursuing? And of course, if you're trying to get everything perfect and right all the time, then we're going to be disappointed, because it isn't always. So here in conversation, let's talk with Futsum Zeinasellassie about progress over perfection.
Welcome to the show, Futsum. We're so excited to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so, when you reached out and asked me, to be on this podcast, I was very, very excited. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So let's get it rolling.
Oh, the pleasure is definitely ours. And we've enjoyed following your running career. And then I got to meet you at the 25K championships in Grand Rapids, where we're from. And so that was really cool to be able to connect with you there and actually talk about some of what we're going to dive into today about progress over perfection. But before we get into that topic specifically, I would love just a little backstory on you and talk about how you got into running, where you've come from through the different stages, because you've had success through all the different stages. But I would love to hear about it from you.
All right. Well, I was born in a very, very small village in East Africa, Eritrea. I grew up there till I was 9 before I moved to like a bigger city when my dad moved to America. And about 6 years later, we came to the state as well. Myself, my little brother, and my mom in 2007. So during that time, I went to middle school and then high school in Indiana. How I started running, my older brother was a runner, and I remember I used to watch him run when I was this is when I was in Eritrea. Then when I came here, I felt like continue to do what what my older brother was doing back there. Just continue running. So I started running in 8th grade, and from there is history. I mean, I really loved the sport. I loved how the sport really helped me fit into a community. A lot of people that comes here could tell you about how hard it is to really find the right community, to feel like fit in, to be part of something. So that's what running gave me. And it just, the joy brought me in terms of, meeting so many people and people that want to know about who I was, where I'm from, and to welcome me and to let me be part of that. Running community meant so much to me that I continued to train, to run. I was good enough to actually get a scholarship to college. So, to go to school for free for like 4.5 years was a blessing as well. Just that, helping me find that community, being part of something, and the team as well. Like, meeting friends, the camaraderie that brings, with other athletes and other runners. Is still the reason why I still run now. I love the sport. So, yeah.
And probably because you're fast too. That might help.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let you speak on that. I think for me, a lot of it is actually it is nice, to do well, to win some races and things like that. But I like to think beyond of to the community and the people that leads me to meet toward the sport, toward running. So I'm very grateful for a lot of people that I've met in this sport, and I hope to meet even moving forward. So,
Well, I'm glad that you get to meet our audience via podcast now.
Well, I mean, you are one of them as well. Like, me, like you mentioned earlier, on that 25K and that short 5-10 minute conversation we had about the sport. I think that was actually first time meeting. I don't know maybe if we met before, but like those are things that are the type of energy that I was speaking in some of, the running community, the people that you meet that are very, very good at what they do, that have their own ways of, providing and doing in this sport. So, I'm grateful to meet you there. And now we're here talking about the sport again. So, Yeah,
it was great to meet too, because I think a lot of times we, as runners, will look at someone who's had a lot of success in the sport. in Foot Locker, you were runner up a couple times, and in college, you're breaking records. And it's just, to look at your resume. And I think a lot of us think, okay, these people who are finding success, like it must be perfect for them. But what really struck me is that our conversation when we spoke at the 25K was that you were pursuing progress over perfection, that things weren't always perfect in training, and that it was hard being a dad and, getting the training in as well. So I would love to unpack that conversation today for our audience, because I think that universally, we can all agree that things won't be perfect all the time. And we have to have these other things that are moving us forward. And then also having a perspective that allows for us to continue to make progress. So would you talk through some of those things that you shared with me way back last spring?
Yes. And I mean, I'm glad you brought this up, and I'll even talk about some really personal. Probably a few of my teammates, and obviously, my coaches and things know that. So personal, and I'll share obviously, financial as well. That's like, part of the uncertainty, being in a place where like, wow, like what am I going to do moving forward? Like, this is the end of my career. So first one comes actually at the end of my senior year in college. Probably like one of the biggest accomplishments, in the sport. Biggest year of my life. Like, I was running really well, and we ended up winning that national title as a team. This is one, and first title on the team. So it meant so much, obviously, to the university, to those athletes that competed that day, or the whole team overall. So, but during that time, I was actually struggling through some, with personal. I don't know how to put it, but like I was going through something where I was actually, I had to seek for some help, just because it was really hard for me on my own to deal with that stuff. So, and I can't believe, I mean, I ended up, getting fourth place on national that year. So if you were to talk to, at that time, to my coach at that time, or to some of my teammates that knew what I was going through, it is impossible to think like we were able to accomplish something like that while going. And I'm sure that's just a small part of the story. If we were to hear what everyone on the team or they were going through and things like that, like you would think from outside this is not possible, right? And in 2019, moving forward in 2019, one of my biggest race and biggest income that I've made, $22,000 for winning the 10-mile race, year championship race. A month prior to that, I had to go get a job because I was running out of my savings. I was like, because in 2018 is why at the end of 2018 I left my contract. So this would be in 2019 and sometime in September, where I was like, okay, it has been 9 months. Without any support coming from outside, and I'm really run out of my savings. My wife, she was a student at that time at an AU, so there's no income coming from there, and and we had a kid as well. So, and it was really, really hard, hard time for me. Obviously, during those times, I remember, and I've got to go back again to where meeting people in the sport. Shannon Thompson is. She was one of our sports psychologists that I met in college and continue to have a great relationship to this day. And I remember reaching out to her and I'm like, hey, like, this is really hard time for me. Like, I'm really having a hard time, putting things in perspective because I got family. And I think I was actually kind of injured that summer because I had so many races over that summer, and I had some calf or Achilles, and then I had to cancel those races over the summer. And, I was really stressing out, and I had to get a part-time job, in September. But it only took 2 weeks later, I went on to win the 10K race in Cal Harbor, which their prize money went up from $3,000 to $5,000, I think. I was like, wow, this is really good pay. And I'm not even thinking about the 10 mile because it's 2 weeks later, obviously it's a bigger race, it's a year championship race. And most of the time, well, sometimes, I think the men do cut the women's, but there's a 10,000 prize money, whoever comes in first. So the lady, they get about a little head start. I'm not sure, 5 to 6 minutes. this year, the man ran like the course record, didn't even catch the woman. That year we did, and I won the race, and it was like $22,000. And a month later, I won a half marathon that had like really good money. So it's like, now that I think about it, there's no such like perfect. I think you have to have the strong principles and how you go about achieving your goals. But like, if you expect any of that to be a perfect, I think that's out of reality. That's not part of life. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel from experience. So if I go even like, you always have this in your life. There's always, but you just gotta go day by day, week by week. And I think, and I've heard even crazier stories than mine about athletes achieving crazy things on a it's not a very ideal situation for them. So yeah. Does that answer our question? I don't know.
It was great. And thank you for sharing all of that. It's so great to be able to hear like the actual stories behind, runners that we idolize oftentimes when we look at results. And so it's great to hear from you in this really deep way. I think it's a generous thing for you to do, to share your story like this. So how did you deal with the pressure of performance when so much was riding on it?
Well, this is where obviously, this is where, like someone that is professional in their profession, plays a big part. And for me, it was Shannon, and really having a good relationship with the competition. I think, if I really bring that outside pressure, which is already hard to do well at this level, but if you really added more, it might be really hard for you to be successful in what you're doing. But like, even if things do go well, all this extra pressure is even going to make it worse. So like, understanding that, like, hey, all you could do is you're well, and sometimes that might not be enough to win, having the right perspective and having the right relationship with what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to go about is the best way. Just because, I don't know, if things don't go your way, you don't want to be, in a worse place by putting so many extra pressures to what you're trying to accomplish. So, but for me, I don't know, at the end of the day, it's just as much as I've got to do this financially, for the money, but I really love the sport, even if things weren't going well, it's just something that I wanted to do, and really, kind of unpacking all those thoughts that you have in your mind, and really having a better understanding of the picture and what you're trying to accomplish, or where you're trying to go, puts a good perspective in how a situation will turn out. So
yeah, that's super good advice. Unpacking it. I liked how you put that. Like, you kind of have to unpack it so that you don't carry that with you when you're running, because you want to leave that all behind. But sometimes we have to actually unpack it first to allow for ourselves to actually run without carrying all of that extra stuff. So do you have a process for that?
Well, you find yourself, having a lot of unnecessary reason why, or what is very, very important here, or what is the goal, or if you don't accomplish that, trying to understand the outcomes of that, I think is what we really, Shannon and I talked about. But like, we did come up with a lot of plans and how we want to go about the season, and then if that season didn't go the way we expected, and what we want to do moving forward, I wanted to hear something that just put drive to what I wanted to do, instead of just being enslaved to financially I'm in a really bad place, like I'm gonna retire or something. I don't know, like that. That was putting a lot of pressure on me, than just really enjoying the sport and really just being like, hey, that's how the situation is. I don't know, but for some reason it works, and I feel like I still have that in me. I don't know maybe how to explain that, but I do understand that there's no such a perfect to really accomplishing your goal. You're always gonna find an outside thing, some very, very close to you, and some just maybe not even important, getting in your way of what you want to achieve. You have to understand that's just part of life, I think. Yeah, is that making sense?
Oh, it definitely makes sense. And I think everyone who's listening is nodding along, even on their runs, they're probably nodding along with you as you're talking, that things just won't be perfect. And so what we do with that moving forward is what helps us find success. And when I hear you talk about the process that you have of finding enjoyment, you said you really do come back. I think that's what I'm hearing you say, that you do come back, that you do love it. And that there is a lot, there's a lot that you have in you that is beyond it being a job, and it's to the love of the sport. Can you tell us about your love for the sport? Like, what do you love about it?
It's what I mentioned earlier. I asked myself so many times, those questions. And as much as bringing the best out of myself, in fact, I'm actually just reading one of, there's three of them. I've read both of Nev's book, and the one I'm reading right now is called the 26 Marathon. Because as I'm getting ready for CIM, I want to have as much insight to what is waiting for me. I still got to go out there and do the training, but it's just good to read about it and to hear from other people's perspective. And he talks about run to win. And for him, it's not he wants to win the race, but to really bring the best out of himself. So for me, yeah, I love to win, obviously, and I want to bring the best out of myself. So that still drives me, at times where, I don't want to really train. But when I really think about what I really love about the sport is, I think, for a lot of people that might not understand how it is for someone, coming from, a different country to USA, and how hard it is to feel like you fit in or you belong. Because maybe it's a little bit different for me, because I do come from a very strong culture and religion and community. So that just means so much to me. And I did find that in the running community. I just felt like, I belong, to a community. I felt like, I might be biased in here, but a runner to me, are probably one of the nicest people in the world. That's how I see it. And that's how I want to live my life. That's what I love about the sport.
And you're one of the really nice people too, Futsum. I'm sensing that now, but I totally agree with you. I feel like the running community is awesome. And there is something really special here to be able to connect. And I think one of the ways that we connect is over the struggle, right? And I think even running being like a microcosm for that. When we're running, we're going to be faced with struggle. We're going to be faced with ourselves. We're going to be faced with our vulnerabilities. And so being able to overcome that and to encourage one another to do that too, like you're doing today for all of our listeners, that is so special. And it is a place where we can all feel like we belong, because we all experience the struggle in the race together. Let's go back to the topic of progress over perfection. And we talked about more of the racing side of it. How about when things in training aren't going the way that we would hope them to go, or we would love to do X, Y, or Z, but we had to take that extra job, or we're working late and we don't get our core work in one day, or there's things that are imperfect. What does imperfect look like, and having progress through that in your training?
This is what obviously where the unpacking comes, and this is where your timetable, where you're trying to get ready for. If we look at training, if we look at running more like it's like a marathon. Marathon is long, right? We just look at running more like life. So if it's something that we do, we're not talking about professionals here, right? We're obviously talking about people that actually just love the sport, that want to push themselves, really get just the best of themselves, right? Personal times and things like that, right? That's what we're talking about. Running has to take a different meaning in how you want to go about your business, and then what you're trying to accomplish. And if you make it like, hey, this is it's something that I want to do, and obviously, you set up goals, 6 months, a year later. Because this helps you, the more time you give it, and then you could count on that consistent type of work. So now it's not really about, oh man, I've got to really hit this workout, or I missed this workout because, for any reason, home reason, for your home reason, or like a job reason, for any reason. And you're not going to really focus on that. You're going to just focus on like the overall consistent work, I think, to really bring the best out of yourself. I feel like, you'd rather be undertrained than overtrained, because that plays a huge role being between perfect and progress, So it's not just about the training. I think that's the progress for me that I'm learning about running. It's not just the run. It's just me as a whole, and then how happy I am, what my environment is like.
I think that was really profound. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is all just such good perspective. And I think as we move towards progress, I think it's good for us to have these big things that you're talking about in mind and treat ourselves well. So just because a hiccup happens, I get an injury, to still have the good nutrition and make progress in that, and to continue and to treat ourselves in a way that's going to set ourselves up for progress when we are able to put the pieces together, so to speak, in our training even better later on. Have there been times that you feel like you've had to overcome difficulties in your training and you've come out even better on the other side?
For me, and then it could be, from that mindset where, whoever that I've worked in the past, they've always felt like I could do a lot more in training. Some people would train as hard as where like they're laying down on the ground. Like that's like the hardest workout they have done. I'll be honest with you. I've never done it. Maybe I should though. I mean, if I'm trying to accomplish what I'm trying, I think I got to have one of those workouts where I'm just, hey, help me up, man. I can't get up. I gave it all I got. I don't know. We all have a different, feel about that. But my workout has been okay, like most of my life. I don't think I've ever had like an A+ workout. I think I just, my most of my workouts, if I have to grade them, they're like, a B+ to A-. But I have had a really bad race where I would like, that's a C- race for me, And in the past, I'm still learning on this. In the past, it takes me about, 3-4 days to really get over that bad race. As where now, I'm actually telling myself, if I ever have a bad race, I'm going to go still treat myself, maybe even buy myself an ice cream, buy something. Why not? I mean, why I got to treat myself? Like, you're already being treated a different way in other life. So like, why you do the same to yourself? That's just, I think, a bad race, a bad workout just means you're a human being. And then our body's going to respond in so many ways. If that happens, just, I would say, even like in a bad workout and a bad race, do all the things that you used to do, if you had a good race. If you had even a good workout, I'm sure people would be like, I had a great workout, so I've got to make sure, I ask fast, I eat well. So do the same thing even when you have a bad workout, like ice baths, eat well, treat yourself really well, do all the things that you would do when you have a good workout. So when I go back to having a bad race and moving forward from that, is what I'm learning is even a bad race or a bad workout is part of the progress if you do all the necessary things moving forward from that. So like, I'm actually coming from like kind of like a bad race. I don't know. It's like a B- for me. A race I just did about 2 weeks ago. But what I'm trying to do, and from the past experiences, I think I took about 3-4 days easy runs. I ice bath. I take care of myself. I ate well, and still believing in my mind that even if it was a bad race, I'm sure I got better from that. If you're out there, you go out for a run, you go for a workout, you have a bad workout, trust me, for just being out there and trying, you've got better. And I know that might sound like really hard to believe, but I really think it is true. And then if you really believe that in your mindset, like you tried, you were out there to do the workout. It didn't go the way you expected. So don't be too hard on yourself. Just believe in that, like, you were out there, you tried, you got better, and just do all the necessary things moving from that. It's like, if you do that, I think with time, they're all going to come together. I mean, think about it. Like, isn't that the attitude you want to have about moving forward? I don't know. I feel like if you say like, oh, that sucks, and I'm trash for the next 2-3 days, and then I don't know. Like, I feel like the other approach to that, it makes sense to me. Really saying like, hey, even if it was a bad race, a bad workout, I know I've got better. Keep doing all the necessary things moving forward, because that is still part of the progress, part of what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. That's important. That's very, very important advice. Thank you. What I'm hearing from, is this math if I use letters? Okay. So I think that if you have years of B+ workouts, you can still have A+ race days. So that's the math using letters that I'm going to share with everybody. Obviously, I'm not a math person.
Greater athletes than myself, Ned Kuflizgi, who won Boston and New York, have said this. If you've done all your workouts, like, man, that's a home run workout. I think you might burn yourself out, in training. So just leave that for a race. I think if you over time, and you have those, B plus, A minus. I know it might sound negative, but like you have a good workout, not like great, not like exceptional. I think you will have an exceptional race. You will do great.
In racing recently, has there been any times where you've had to turn around something that might seem imperfect and take on that challenge and overcome it?
Yeah, and I'll give you a quick example. So, and I've mentioned, Neb a few times because I really try to, learn as much as I can from his books. And one thing I've learned is like, obviously our number one goal is to really bring the best out of ourselves. So sometimes I might be winning a race or, hey, like I want to get top 3 in this race. But sometimes, and I'll give an example of those where it might not go your way. You've got to always find a way to get you to that finish line. To kind of wrap it up, what we were talking about earlier about having, like, hey, just decent training and those becoming an excellent race, for me is, even though, I've had some good races this year, but especially in last year, during that 25K race, I really didn't have any workout that said like I could be top 3 in this. And in fact, I was supposed to fly 2 days before the race. My flight got canceled, so I left the next day. I remember the guy who won that race. So I got second in that race. The guy who won BS Ambassa, he was my roommate. I was like, man, I should wake this guy up. I had a long day. How's he gonna be asleep? We're both gonna have a bad sleep. So that this is me joking, but I was thinking of that. It was not an ideal traveling day, and I really didn't have any training that says that like I was gonna do well. I did so well that I was very, very like surprised with myself. Gosh, like second place here, this type of travel really didn't have a workout. So that's where it comes for me. Like, hey, right nutrition, right sleep, having the right mindset, and having just good training will get you some exceptional results at times. And this past race, the 10 mile, I felt like I am in my best shape right now. I mean, I could actually say, I've done some workout. I feel like, wow, this feels a lot easier and then, than it has in the past. But just 2 weeks before that, we changed our training because it would be like about 12 weeks out of our main race, CIM, our goal. So we had to gamble there. Like as much as I wanted to win, do well in the 10 mile, but this is my first marathon, so I have to prepare really well. So I remember we went like 20 more miles, our volume than usual that week, a week before that race. And following that week, I still had a really 2 hard session, one on Sunday, one on Wednesday, and the race was on Sunday. And I remember the race going out really, really fast, but like I still had my mind is like I wanted to compete. Forgot about the training that I've done, 2 weeks, leading to that. And around 5 miles where I got dropped really hard. It's just the speed was too much, for my body to handle coming from those 2 weeks of training. And then a big group came behind and passed me. I really wanted to drop out. I'm like, this is not because that's not what I expected, and I did not like how my body was responding. I just didn't feel good. So obviously, I had to really, dig deep and then think about like, hey, this was maybe the goal. This is what you wanted to do. But, for a while, I was like, let me get top 10, I really had to change my, my goal within the race. Like, I'm sure from mile 5 to like mile 7 or 8, I was like, okay, just get top 10, keep pushing. And then from there, a couple of people passed me, like, okay, just get to the finish line. I think finishing the race, because I don't want to drop out. Moving forward, I might have the same thoughts in the race if I drop out. So I decided to finish, keep going, even in a bad day. So, yeah.
And progress, it will bring you progress for your CIM race. So to bring that full circle, progress over perfection. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show, Futsum, and we'll keep our audience up to date on your CIM race and all the things that will come next for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate for the opportunity. So, and I hope this is, something that, your audience and people that you serve, this is what they wanted to hear. So I hope you enjoy it.
All right, now time for the World of Running segment. Before we get too deep into it, a quick note and shout out to the many who, for representing AtoZrunning, or we support, ran many different events and races over the weekend here. So let's see if we can capture all of them. Shout out to Carl, who was pushing for My Team Triumph with the team pushing. If you're familiar with what My Team Triumph does, they push wheelchairs for those who cannot run themselves, and doing that in teams and crews. And that was a great contribution to the event, certainly. And Carl and the crew pushing along there, and congrats on that. Martha ran the 10K, and a strong and substantial effort at that. Nice work, Martha. And Jacob running the half marathon in a PR time, almost 90 seconds off his PR. Nice work, Jacob. And Stephanie in a strong half marathon performance as well. Andrew and Dano both pacing in a half marathon race, so thank you for supporting in that way also. Those pace groups are always just crazy. The energy and that's good stuff. Thanks, guys. Kelly ran the full marathon this weekend in a strong performance also. Adi running a PR half marathon. Congrats on that. Mark in a very strong full marathon, top two or three performance all time for Mark there. Nice work. Julie also running strong full marathon, and Kyle going out for an easy effort, controlled effort, half marathon experience, coming off of an injury experience. So he was just kind of trying to work his way back into things here, and that was a fun way to test it a bit. Jax in a half marathon PR of almost 3 minutes. Nice work on that, Jax. That was substantial. And Bill in a marathon PR of 12 seconds. Nice job, Bill. Any PR is a PR, and so that was always great. And Owen running a full marathon PR as well. I don't know what the exact PR is, but it's like tens of minutes. Let's go with 40-ish minutes. Nice job, Owen. His response to me afterward was, "That was fun." And I kept thinking, did you do the same thing that I've done when I've run marathons? Because that doesn't always feel fun to me, but I am so glad to hear it. That's awesome. And Hannah as well, congrats on going out and running the full marathon, supporting some others there in the race. Nicely done all. So that was a lot. And we're always excited to be able to share those things with you. Part of it's a little bit of like boasting about our people. You know, we got to boast about our people. They're out there working hard and training hard, and we always want to congratulate and honor that effort as best we can. But also, in part, it's because we can spend so much time talking about the couple few people who win a race or the couple few people who are breaking records, but most of us, the vast majority of all of us, are not doing those things on a regular basis. But we are all out there making the effort, and to celebrate that is our aim. So congrats to all, and certainly more than just our people running these races. Congrats to all who ran. Now, let's talk about a few of those notable instances that I was just mentioning. First up here is they track for, especially in the marathon, someone's debut, and kind of keep a record of fastest debut times. And part of the reason why they do that is because it's always interesting to document over time how fast do people run these things for their first ever, and where do they come from in it. And so I'm always most interested when someone says, here's the person's debut, and it's an impressive thing. My query is always, from where did the person come? Is it someone who's been running 20K, 25K races for years and years at a high level? Or is it someone who just jumped off the track and this is a first marathon? All that kind of stuff is curious to me. So here we go. The women's marathon debut record was just broken by 3 seconds, which, as we were saying earlier, a record's a record. This time now, Almaz Ayana of Ethiopia ran 2:17:20 in her Amsterdam marathon to break the previous record of Yalamzurf Yahwala, also of Ethiopia, by 3 seconds. And Ayana, if you're familiar with the name, you've heard it if you've been paying attention to the track scene for the last 8 years. And certainly if you've been watching the road scene, she's been out there doing impressive things. Almaz Ayana was the one who broke the world record in the 10,000 meters in the Olympics in a solo run, ran by herself the whole time. And this was not recent. This was a fair bit ago. But when you see something like that and you think to yourself, I can't imagine that she's, done doing amazing things. And here we see proof now in her first ever marathon. And it's been a while. She was intentionally moving slowly up the distances. And so now, having run a marathon in a new debut marathon record, I don't have it listed here, but this is top 8 or something all time. Maybe better than that, actually. So yes, an impressive performance for her first ever marathon. And it, of course, we wonder, what does it look like to see Ayana running more marathons in the future? That by the way, the stat that I mentioned, that was from 2016 Olympic Games in Rio when she won the 10,000 meter in world record time. Okay. And it has won other track titles as well in the World Championships, 5,000 and 10,000. Okay, now that's impressive stuff. Let's talk about something go up in distance, which was, this is a little bit older. This didn't just happen. It was about a week ago. But CJ Albertson, an ultra marathoner, notable for certainly some impressive marathon stuff, mostly, but dabbling now in ultra distance here, ran a new world record 50K time. And so CJ Albertson is a great marathoner. I can't remember what his actual marathon PR is. Do we have it listed here? We don't have it listed here. But by no means does a great marathoner, does it suggest that same person can run a 50K just as well. Adding those handful of miles more does make a difference. It's 5 miles more. So that makes a big difference. But in this instance, he was blazing, ran 2:38:43 for 50K, which is, as I said, add 5 miles onto your marathon. So for a 31-mile race, he's running 2:38. Wow. And this, by the way, was 90 seconds better than the previous record by Stephen Makoka, which was just set in March of this year. Not too bad. 5:05 per mile for 31-plus miles. Okay. All right. Nice work, CJ Albertson. Now, let's talk about something a little bit more controversial, which is the 2021 Boston Marathon champion, Diana Kipchoge, has been suspended and for drug cheating. And so what's more interesting about this is, in almost every instance when something like this happens, there's always a lot of kind of like questions around the edges. How certain are you? What's the nature of the degree of, did the person knowingly do it? Was the person trying to kind of like tamper with the limits of things and just cross the line too much? All that kind of stuff is in question. Her agent just basically said, yep, she's guilty, and we're sorry, this is terrible. So that, it's just kind of very straightforward, which doesn't happen very often. And it suggests here that there's observation of the wrong, and clearly some remorse, because you're losing out now. You're being stripped of past accolades. You're losing out on future performance, because the ban for these things is substantial. And for most athletes, when they're at the height of their career, suffering a ban like this tends to take most of their best years, as they say. So the quick note here, the substance in question for Kipchoge was triamcinolone. I don't know how to say it. Acetonide, which is in most instances, sounds like it's a kind of like anti-inflammatory that has some uses that cross into like weight loss, muscle building, some of that kind of stuff. So to what degree and how and why, I don't know. But the point here being, it is a banned substance. It is a performance-enhancing drug and can be abused in use, even though it might have like medicinal prescription at times, but it can be abused in use. And so in this instance, that appears to be the case. All right, well, kind of ending on a down note, I guess. But in all of this, one of the things that we're just really constantly amazed by is how competitive the scene is. And you see things like this happen in large part because it is so hard to be at that level. It's so competitive. There are many athletes who are at the highest of levels. And as you see in things like debut record times getting broken, and all of the above that we've been talking about, this fall has been a fall for records in nearly everything. And so that competitive edge, we're looking forward to seeing more of that here as the New York Marathon approaches. And at the same time, just kind of, it wonders the question, how fast can people get right now in our current state of the sport? It's very exciting for us. All right, now speaking of excitement, As we come to a close today, let me remind you of, first, if you've got questions and you would like to submit and share them to have a response on air, certainly we want you to. That's the thing that I like to do the most, is to just answer the questions or talk with people about the stuff they're doing. Maybe we don't necessarily always have like a concrete answer that's going to solve all your problems, but we still would love to talk about it and share thoughts with you. Submit those questions. Go to AtoZrunning.com/question and share thoughts there, and we will then add it to our end of month episode. And then finally, as mentioned in the beginning, if you would like to get your hands on some of the limited supply AtoZrunning merch, it is quite limited supply. Sizes, especially certain sizes, are very limited, and we would love to be able to share that with you, but you got to act sooner rather than later so they don't run out. And all you need to do to find it is go to AtoZrunning.com, look for the shop wherever it is, or just do AtoZrunning.com/shop. All right. Thanks again for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon.